Last week's parsha, Moshe Rabbeinu complains to Hashem. Ever since you sent me to Paro, things have not gotten better, they've only gotten worse. So this week's parsha begins with Hashem telling Moshe Rabbeinu, I made promises to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Didn't fulfill them. And they didn't ask questions. And Rashi says, Chaval al diavdin. Hashem's telling Moshe Rabbeinu, what a shame. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they're not around. In other words, you're not like them. Moshe Rabbeinu is not like Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. The Gemara tells us, Ein korin ovos ela l'shlosha. There are only three that we refer to as our patriarchs. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and that's it. Moshe Rabbeinu brought down the Torah. It's Torah's Moshe. No, he's not one of the others. What's he missing? When the Rambam speaks of free will and talks about the extremes, he says everyone could be a tzaddik like Moshe Rabbeinu or a rasha like Yerovam ben Nevat, who got the 10 tribes into idolatry instead of coming to the Beis HaMikdash. That means his example of tzaddik is Moshe Rabbeinu. He's the righteous one. Not Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. So it's a little funny for us to sit there. Who's bigger, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, or Moshe Rabbeinu? They're obviously different. And there's a certain message here that the pasuk is giving us in terms of a preference. Moshe Rabbeinu, he's the leader, referred to as Raya Mehemna, the trustworthy shepherd. The shepherd of Klal Yisrael, the one who cares for them. He's coming to Hashem and complaining, look, their suffering has gotten worse, it's only intensified. He's pleading on behalf of the nation. And Hashem says that's not what Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov did. It's not for a leader to feel the pain of his generation. Is that what he's supposed to do? No question. Of course he is. And he's not to approach Hashem on behalf of the nation? Of course he's got to. Of course he's got to. But you know, in the way we deal with one another, there's something of a dichotomy, and we've always got to carry with us both sides of that dichotomy. Of course, when a Jew suffers, we got to feel their suffering. We've got to do our best to relieve them of their suffering, change the situation. That's our first responsibility. But there's another reality that we know is going on. Tell me, what happens when we struggle? As individuals, how are you supposed to feel when you're going through hardship? You're supposed to make the most of it. You're supposed to take every bit of pain and understand that this is building me. This is the key to my becoming greater. Yes, you feel the pain. You don't deny it. Denying your pain and just smiling is referred to as mava'it b'yisurim, like making nothing of your suffering, pushing it away. Hashem is giving you a painful message and you're ignoring it. What you're supposed to do is understand something's being demanded of me. First, just on the first level, when we struggle, our priorities are so much more sober. We recognize what's important and what's trivial. But aside from that, we got to get the message and realize there's something I have to be able to grow into. We know all the time, Hashem only loves us. The purpose of our suffering and our struggle is to build us, nothing else. It's only there for us. Do you jump for joy? If you're really holding there and your growth is so much more important to you and you can do it, wow. But not by ignoring pain. It's there for a reason. That's when it comes to ourselves. When it comes to others, so the first thing we've got to do is feel their pain. And we've got to help them. What happened? What happened to giving them the secret of the importance of struggles and suffering in the growth process, in becoming great, and what our real goals are? What's the place of that? This is not simple. But it can't be ignored. The ultimate gift that you can give your fellow Jew is the ability to understand that. It's not the first thing you do. The first thing you got to do is see this as my responsibility to help him. See how I can change the situation. That's your first reaction. And yes, you've got to feel his pain. And not say, wow, he's going to grow. You got to feel the pain. You got to be there with him. That's first. But ultimately, we got to help one another understand that life is not about being comfortable. Life is about becoming great. And face it, when we're comfortable, when we're complacent, we don't grow. We don't become great. We're left with all of our flaws, all of our issues, everything that takes us away from Hashem. So there are the Avos. There's Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They created the Jewish personality, if you can call it that. They instilled in our genes those basic values. And the idea of growing through struggle is high on the list. Moshe Rabbeinu? No, he's the leader. He brought Torah down, yes. Included in that is everything Torah teaches us in this too. But in terms of his role, In terms of his role, he comes pleading on behalf of Klal Yisrael and even making an accusation, because that's what you do when you feel it. It's a different kind of role. You know, when dealing with others and taking responsibility for others, you always have to ask yourself, what is my role? What is my role? First thing you do is be a Moshe Rabbeinu. First thing you do is you got to feel people's pain. You got to be there for them. But ultimately, it's the others. Ultimately, what it's about is sharing with them the secret. Life is not about comfort. Hashem only loves us. Pain is out of love. You can shower someone with gifts if you don't care about them. You give them tough assignments if you want them to grow. Aisha Torah is built on educating the Jewish nation. What we're trying to instill in every one of you is to take responsibility for every Jew. In what way? In every way. It's got to begin with the Moshe Rabbeinu. It's got to begin with the care. Every Jew you meet, you've got to feel for. You've got to feel their pain. You've got to feel their struggles. You've got to be there for them. But ultimately, what's the goal? The goal is you got to tell them the secret. Life is about standing up to big challenges. If you're going to be a little bit too sympathetic to people's struggles, they'll never grow. It's coming from a feeling of being very sympathetic, but in reality, it's callous. You're not giving them the tools for life, and you're not letting them know what reality is all about. It begins by caring. If all you do is preach, if you don't feel their pain, you're not a leader. You're not a leader. The beginnings of Moshe Rabbeinu, as he walks out, he leaves the palace, Vayetzei elechov, Vayar b'sivlo son. He goes out to his brethren, and he sees that unlike his own comfort in the palace, they're suffering. Rashi says, he feels Nosan Einov, Libo. He feels it. He feels their pain. It all begins by caring. You got to care, and you got to be there for people. But then if you really care, you got to go further. And this is the Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. This is the essence of being a Jew. Not accepting their weakness. Not being too sympathetic. Believing that they can do more. You got to believe in Jews. We can make difficult decisions. We can do more. Ultimately, you got to give people that gift of appreciating challenge and growing. Got to let them know that Hashem challenges people he believes in. And if Hashem believes in them, then you got to too. You know, listen, we believe in you. And while we feel for you and know what you go through, and the growing pains are not easy, but because we believe in you and care about you, we're not too sympathetic. We know you can do better. We know you can do more. We know you can be great. And because we're not callous, we're going to make sure that happens. We're B'nai Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And bottom line, what Jews are made of is we know Hashem loves us unconditionally, and every bit of struggle is for our benefit. Growing is painful. There's nothing like it. So become great. We're B'nai Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Become great. You can. We know you can, and you got to believe you can. Stand up to great challenges. Make tough decisions. Do the impossible, because it's not impossible. And really become great Jews.